you would get hit for doing something like that. You would get a drink thrown at you. It's not worth it.
What are your own personal experiences of dating apps?
During my time, I found it very difficult as well in the way that I saw myself.
With things like dating apps, for example, Snapchat, on it there's a thing called a Snap Score, which is when you can see how often people are like sending pictures and messaging other people, but especially when it's secondary school. There was a really big talk about, all my friends that were messaging a guy, and I hadn't been messaging for him, but he snapped it when he was talking to someone else. And it's this kind of obsession of almost stalking.
I started it as a joke. Oh, I'll join Tinder because now I'm 18, I can. It'll be a bit of fun. I joined Tinder and I joined Hinge. Out of the two, I significantly preferred Hinge. I think that choice is dangerous.
We're back for part 2 in our 3-part series with Erin and George, and we're talking all things dating apps. I was really loving our first conversation. We were getting into the impacts of dating apps and some of the things that you guys have experienced. And we're going to be continuing and talking about the benefits, how we can use dating apps in a good way, and maybe how to avoid some of the downsides and some of the risks, actually. So let's get back into our conversation then, what are your own personal experiences of dating apps?
Do you want me to go?
Yeah.
As someone with experience with dating apps, I'm actually very interested to hear yours. I started when I turned 18.
Straight away, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was very much, and I think this is the important thing to sort of remember, is I started it as a joke, almost more of a sort of flippant. Oh, I'll join Tinder because now I'm 18, I can. It'll be a bit of fun. And I mean, I never really had negative experiences. I joined Tinder and I joined Hinge. Out of the two, I significantly preferred Hinge, past tense, permaband. I made a mistake of giving my phone to my good friend, and he managed to say things to get me banned permanently, even after I appealed. I have no idea what he said to this day.
But I think it's interesting that you did get banned, though.
And that's something I'll get onto, yeah, because it sort of showcases security. During my time, I think I must have spent a good 3 months on it.
You were on it a lot. It almost became an addiction. I remember you talking about that.
I think it's because I found it. Yeah, it's almost a game. And that's something I said last episode, but it's something that I'll go back to, is I feel that, as I said, you depersonalize people, and it ends up being would you rather, almost, who would I prefer to be with? This person's far more attractive than that person. I swipe left, swipe right, swipe left, swipe right, and it just goes on and on and on and on. And you eventually just get to the point where, you realise this isn't what I want. A lot of people that I've swiped left on, if they came up to me or if I approached them, I would be attracted to them, not just based on their looks, but based on the kind of things they mentioned in their profile.
It's that illusion of choice, isn't it?
Yeah.
And having that power.
And having that choice is dangerous. And I found, as I said, Hinge I prefer far more because it does take away from the physical aspect a bit more, and it goes more towards their personality. Unfortunately, that did not last long.
Short-term dating app, or a lot of people use it as a hookup app.
Yeah.
But Hinge is for finding a partner.
But the fact that you've only really got those two apps is very difficult, because if you're like me and get wrongly banned permanently, it's a bad experience. It wasn't even a bad experience, really. It was more just a realization that, these are actually people as well. Regardless of the fact I didn't say anything personally, it was someone else. And it was, from what I seem to sort of from what they said to me, it was seemingly a joke, but clearly it's important to understand that the people you are messaging are people. It's not a game where you can just say the most obscene things. It doesn't work like that, because would you say that to someone in real life? You wouldn't. You would get hit for doing something like that. You would get a drink thrown at you. It's not worth it.
It's like confidence behind the screen.
Exactly.
Again, isn't it? Yeah.
And I think, I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it for what I found it was, which was a fun, sort of hopeful thing. I might meet someone, and I feel that is a good way of looking at these apps, is instead of going, I need to find someone, or if I don't find someone, I don't feel validated. It should be almost say, I might find someone here, or it might be someone I know already and I've found them on here, or they might be interested in me. Now I know that they're interested in me. That changes the way in which I speak to them, because I'm aware of that now. And, during my time, I found it very difficult as well in the way that I saw myself, but also, weirdly enough, a confidence boost, because I found that by being myself, people were more interested in me.
That's interesting, isn't it? Rather than presenting a polished image. I was thinking about the knock-on effect as well when you were talking, of, if we receive something negative from someone, we know from a psychological aspect that hurt people will tend to hurt others. And so, if we're on the receiving end of some rejection or some kind of message, then I wonder how much that impacts that person then projecting that onto somebody else, and the snowball effect that could have. It's a vulnerable space, isn't it, is what I'm hearing, a really vulnerable space.
No, I think that's a good way. Yeah, I think that's the problem, in my opinion, with dating apps. I'm going to be all cards on the table, I don't like them. And I think that's the problem. It's a vulnerable space turned into a game. And I think that's what's harmful about it, is something that's vulnerable and dangerous, like putting yourself, opening yourself up to someone. It turned into something where you can easily just be passed on to the next one. And I think that's what's dangerous and about it that I don't like. Yeah,
and I think the way that you find positives in these platforms is very simply based on how you go about it. The platforms themselves inherently aren't the reason as much. They exist, but it's our usage of them.
It's the culture within the platform.
And I think that's why I definitely preferred Hinge, very simply because you have more of a personalization and also security. As proven by my example, what you report and what happens is closely monitored, and regardless of if it was someone else that messaged that, it still is taken very seriously. And I think Tinder particularly struggles with that. The security based on, profiles, you're able to set up a profile as long as you have viable ID. If you have ID, you can get on that app. You don't have to verify your account. You don't have to verify that it's you. You very simply just have some form of ID. You can filter it based on verified and unverified, and I found that particularly helpful, because you would see, through going through those apps, far more people of the same profile, and it was very clearly fake. And I can tell some people will fall for that. Fortunately, I didn't, but it's very obvious if you're not careful that people will go for that.
How did it impact you? Because what I was picking up on from what you were saying is how it made you feel.
Yeah.
When you were particularly presenting an image that you thought was not going to get that rejection, which obviously we're going to be driven by that, because who wants to get rejection? How did that feel for you?
I mean, the good thing about these apps, I guess, for someone's understanding of themselves is you don't know that you've been rejected because you have to swipe right on them, you have to like them, and they have to like you. You don't know if they've not liked you because it won't tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no real form of rejection as such until you message them and then realise, actually, number one, this might not be someone I'm really interested in because they're talking in a way that they can't necessarily hold a conversation. I think that's a testament to the app itself, is people struggle messaging new people, whereas talking in person, you have so much more to pick up on. The context, where you are, what you're doing, who they are, who they're with. You've got so many different points that you can mention to have a conversation, whereas on an app, you're lost. And
I'm thinking AI though. Now you can literally put it into an AI software. How shall I respond to this on this dating
think
app?
of that. God, imagine how good I would have been on that.
Yeah.
Well, AI is a whole issue in itself because there's forms of dating AI now, which is just absurd. I think that's the thing, is there's more and more, the media now is going towards more and more stepping away from actually human interactions.
There's an obsession
People are almost scared of it.
And I think that's the thing.
Because real human interactions are vulnerable. We think we're being vulnerable on social media, but we're not. Especially when we think we're being vulnerable on a place that you would think is a place to be vulnerable, like a dating app, but we're not. And I think that's why people will maybe go on a dating app and then think, it's not for me. They'll go into real life, find it hard because it is hard, and then they'll fall back onto the dating app because they're not used to what real vulnerability feels like.
And there's this obsession, as sort of you glossed over, there's an obsession with being in a relationship of some form. Particularly within men, there's an obsession and an almost drive to be with people physically, which is far from the goal. Everyone has their own wants and needs for a relationship. A physical relationship purely, that's fine, as long as you're communicating that clearly. But I feel that creates a drive for these apps where people are like, I'm going to find those relationships that I want through this platform. And I guess, are we really the fair test living in Lincoln? No, because these apps are more effective in bigger cities. If you live in London, I'm sure your experience is far different and probably far more positive, because you will actually meet people through that. There are millions of people in London. You will meet people, guaranteed.
That's the positive about dating apps, I think, that I will admit, is it opens you up to a lot of new people. And I also think that dating apps were originally invented, personally I think, or should have been at least, for meeting new people, but not for the conversation to happen on there, just to open yourself up to a new person.
And there are apps now where you skip the conversation and you just go straight to meeting them. I'd never use those because by that point I was already forming my own relationship, which happened outside of a dating app, not thanks to, but in complete separation to it. And I think that's important to realise. But, these apps do exist, and I've seen adverts for it. Clearly they thought I was still lonely. But these apps, they are positive. It's just about how you as an individual go about it. If I meet someone,
how you utilise it.
Yeah, if I meet someone and have an experience with them, be it a quick relationship or a long-lasting one, what do I take away from that? Do I take away, this is thanks to the dating app? Or do I go, this is thanks to me? Do I need a dating app? Or is it simply a crutch? Is it something that pushes me? Or is it something that gets me there? Because if it's the thing that gets you to that relationship, you shouldn't really want to use it, because you should be able to, or you should need to build those sort of skills yourself. Skills, probably not the best word, but... I
liked what you were saying there, and I'd like to come back to that. I just want to get Erin's take on that, but I'd like to get into expectations, actually, and what you guys are actually looking for in a relationship. Beyond the image, I guess, is what we're saying. What about your take on this then, Erin, of dating apps?
I
And
mean, I've already been vocal about how I don't like them. I think, but a part of that is because I'm a very, I'm not, I am and I'm not, it's interesting. I'm not on social media often, but I am. I don't message often. I'm really
you
bad
don't.
at replying to
Yes,
messages
she is.
and things like that. And I think it's because it's that, there's like a culture now of you need to read my message if you leave me on read. It's like rude. You have to respond, or and I don't like that. I like human interaction. I like authenticity. I value that so highly. I think that's like most important trait I find in someone is their authenticity, and I feel you don't find that on dating apps because, like we were saying, you put a version of yourself up, even on social media, that you want people to see. And everyone knows that that's not their true, authentic self, but we just kind of don't acknowledge it, or we think, oh, that's fine. And personally, I don't like that.
absolutely. So it's for you. It's that connection that's missing there, which brings us into what we're actually looking for in relationships. Because what I was hearing you say there is about connection. It's about real connection. It's about real people. How would you sum that up? What are you looking for?
I think just someone who's, like I said, authentic, because with that comes, with authenticity, it comes honesty, because you're being honest about who you are. With honesty, it comes truthfulness. And with, these things of completely being able to see this person, and honesty and truthfulness comes communication. And with communication comes safety and reassurance, and knowing that you're both on a similar wavelength. And I feel like communication is a hard thing to master, because in doing that means being vulnerable. But I feel like with things like dating apps, for example, Snapchat, on it there's a thing called a snap score, which is when you can see how people are like sending pictures and messaging other people. And there was I've heard about it less now, but especially when I was in secondary school, there was a really big talk about, my friend might be messaging a guy, and he didn't message me for a day, but his snap score went up, he was talking to someone else. And it's this kind of obsession of almost stalking, like having to watch this person constantly make sure that they're talking to you. People are completely in their own right to talk to other people, and I feel like if you're authentic and honest about that, it won't be something to hide. And following that and being like, who are you messaging? Who are you talking to? How often are you doing it? That's just really unhealthy.
But I think that's a level of immaturity.
Yeah.
And that's a natural... Immaturity is not a negative thing at this age.
It's coming from a place of I'm not good enough.
Exactly.
If you didn't believe that about yourself,
Yeah.
it wouldn't bother you. You wouldn't be questioning that. So that, like you say, that's that personal development of the self-awareness, that's coming from a place of...
And I think that's the thing is, at this age we are almost supposed to be immature. We're developing as humans. We're understanding the world around us. Therefore, is this really the time for forming, not necessarily forming relationships. Forming relationships is fine, and it's definitely not my place to say, you should or shouldn't be dating at this age. It's very normal, and it's a good thing to be doing. Should we be doing this through social media? Should we be doing this in such a way that, as you say with Snap Score and things like that, we can't ignore it. We're not going to be able to get rid of social media. And I think putting an age limit on social media is unrealistic, because in our world now, we need it to exist almost. It's a part of us. It's unfortunate that it's a part of us. For a lot of people, we want to get away from that. But we can't. And it's about accepting it and embracing it almost. But are we in the right space for this? For, dating apps, people are able to get onto them at a younger age than they say.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think what you're kind of saying there is that in order to develop that self-awareness and that personal development, you can do it within a relationship, but sometimes it's good to have that space where you are working on yourself, really, and gaining some self-awareness.
And it isn't until you get to a more mature relationship, which realistically you will not have until 18 onwards. That's fine. It's not an issue. It's not, you're not doing anything wrong for that. That's part of growing up. But a mature relationship allows you to develop within the relationship. You're able to grow. You're able to acknowledge that, you know, these are my faults. I want to work on it.
You don't have to be perfect.
You don't.
Yeah.
But
to be in it.
but at that age and going into 18 onwards, you still haven't. I mean, there are exceptions. Some people might have a really good relationship, a really healthy and mature relationship at 15. But the fact is,
They're rare.
they are rare.
That's
and
rare.
Also, I think the media in particular, the reason why we see a big push for dating apps is because throughout that age, we are pushed that, you know, we want to be in a relationship.
It's so
Everyone's like,
normalised.
oh, you're dating someone, and oh, I think you're interested in them. That's always existed, and that's always going to be a part of our lives. But it's the fact that you don't have the space or time to grow because you're constantly pushed for a relationship rather than actively wanting one.
I think that a lot of relationships starting at a younger age, people take them very, very seriously. And you do when you fall into a relationship, but I think people take them far too seriously. You know, I remember being in like year 10, so I was like 15, 16, and my friends were in relationships, and they'd be talking about marriage. And I'm thinking like, I'm sorry to be that person, but let's be realistic here. That's not probably most likely not going to happen. You want to take this opportunity to learn how you are in a relationship, learn what you like, learn if it is going somewhere.
And hey, if it does happen, congratulations. It does happen.
But I think that with online dating, there's this. I personally, maybe it's just because I dislike it, but I don't think it's serious enough. I feel like it's a bit too much of a, I'll throw this person away, I can find another person on here. So it doesn't feel serious, but people going into it to find something serious on something that if going onto an app that isn't serious to find something serious isn't going to get you something serious, you know?
Right. And you're talking about that real connection again. Yeah. And I just, because what I'm getting a sense of here is with my interpersonal psychotherapy head on, if we think about, I think a fantastic question to ask when you're with anybody, whether it be a friend or a partner or whoever it may be, is how do I feel when I'm with them? You know, it's a great question to ask if you're in an abusive relationship. How do I feel when I'm with them? And just going back to what you were saying before about that person that has a vulnerability to feeling not good enough, if that's the answer, then another question to ask is, have I felt that way before? Is this a pattern? Because it usually is, and therefore it's something that it's a vulnerability in me. Where did that start for me? You know, and so where you can start to gain that emotional intelligence really is what you were both saying. And going back to the needs in relationship, and you're talking about that real connection. So what are we looking for? Because I've got a handful of things that I've come across in my work with people, in my therapy work that is, where it boils down to a handful of things of what we are looking for, and what doesn't feel good to us, of how we feel in a relationship. So I guess I'm interested in, from that perspective, what do you think those things are? If you think about, if you've been in a previous relationship, whether it be a partner or a friend, what hasn't felt good?
I think when there's a clear lack of loyalty. Loyalty in any relationship, you know, friendship, relationship, partnership, anything, loyalty is key because it's loyalty. It means they're going to stay by you, obviously to an extent. which is where I think authenticity and having a true, honest opinion comes in, because I could not be loyal to someone. Yeah. I've left friends before because I felt that they're not someone that I want to be friends with anymore, because sometimes you grow out of people, or because people become people that you don't like to put yourself near.
They don't feel safe,
no,
for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I think that loyalty overall is key, because it's trust, I suppose. It's that kind of mutual trust of, I'm not going to leave you, you're not going to leave me, we're by each other's side. Mm-hmm. For anything. I mostly value that in friendships, because I think often then with loyalty will come things like being honest and being able to say, look, you and me have had this before. Yeah. Me and George are really great friends, but there are times where I've had to say to him, I personally don't think that you should have said that. I don't think that this, or we've had disagreements.
And I'll tell you when you're being one as well.
And we can both talk about that and still stay friends. And I think that's the most important aspect to a relationship, is that level of communication, but that's still being loyal.
And that level of realism as well. And I think
that no one is perfect.
And I've been in relationships in the past where I've struggled to be able to communicate, and I'm in a relationship now where I'm fortunately very able to be realistic. And I think that realism is a very important thing of, actually, we are human. Sometimes we need our own space. We are able to set boundaries, and it's important to remember that you are, your own person. Just because you want some of your time doesn't mean you love anyone any less, doesn't mean you don't want to spend time with them. It just means right now, I need my time. And I think in terms of expectations for a relationship, I feel that the relationships you build through social media and through dating apps can sometimes be far more attention-seeking in terms of a relationship. Not in the relationship itself, but within the person. They need that attention. It's part of the reason why they probably went on the app in the first place, is to seek validation. Not necessarily something that they intentionally wanted, but subconsciously they need that validation to go, people are attracted to me. And I guess a realistic expectation for a relationship is that you shouldn't need to feel that way. You should know that your partner feels that way. And it's nice to be reminded.
That's work on yourself, isn't it? To get to that place of, and I like what you're saying there. You're both saying that to have this expectation in a relationship where there's going to be difficult conversations, there's going to be things that you think, well, it should be done that way, or it shouldn't be this, or it should be that, because we've all got our unconscious biases.
You'll clash.
Yeah,
and it's okay to have
those
arguments.
Conversations are going to happen in a healthy relationship. It's not going to be the dating app, perfect picture. There's going to be these bumps in the road.
There is one thing that George said though about you're allowed your own time, and I think that's one thing that comes with online dating, is because with the access of social media, where you can message someone and talk to someone at any time as long as they answer you back, there's this kind of pressure of, if in real life, if you're not messaging and you're away from each other, you can't talk to them. But with messaging, there's this kind of pressure of, you have the phone, I know you have it, you have me on the phone, so I'm messaging you, you must message me back. Mm-hmm. And it's this pressure of having to respond. And it's very important that people know when to differentiate. I want to talk now, or now I want my own personal time. Like I've got a really good example of, I've got a really, really personal best friend called Ruby, and me and Ruby are really such good friends, but we can go weeks without talking to each other. We don't message it. I mean, last time I spoke to her was maybe 2 weeks ago.
You're both as bad as each other
but
at replying.
I just know when we both message, nothing changes, and that's when you know it's a true, authentic relationship of some sort. Because there's not that pressure of having to respond. Because as soon as there is that pressure of I need to reply, you don't want it anymore. As soon as you're forced into doing something, you don't want to do it anymore.
You're almost proving to people that this is a good relationship.
I do want to message you, I do, but you don't right now at that moment. You want to sit down and watch TV alone. That's normal, that's natural.
I love that. So, loving this conversation. That's the end of part 2 in our 3-part series. We will be back next week, where we're going to continue, and we're going to be talking about what we're looking for in relationships, and we're going to really break that down because I think it's important to kind of clarify that. I think so that we can make our own choices of what we're actually looking for, and not be so vulnerable to what social media are telling us we should be looking for. I'm also going to talk about the trust jar from I love Brené Brown. She's fantastic. She's a real straight talker. And it just reminded me of something she talks about, the trust jar. So I'll go into that a little bit as well. So hope you guys are enjoying this chat as much as I am. And do tune in next week for part 3.